It's March 28th, 2016. A quiet Monday morning in the Neihu District of Taipei, Taiwan. 36-year-old Claire Wang walks alongside her daughter, a 4-year-old with the nickname Little Light Bulb, as the little girl pushes her strider bike up a gentle slope. Her tiny yellow bike wobbles slightly over the painted crosswalk. To her left, a small concrete storefront was just opening for the day, and delivery scooters were parked tight along the curb. The little girl is small, but determined. Her tiny feet shuffle against the concrete, her helmet slightly askew, her breath steady with effort. They're on their way to the subway station, just a short walk from home, where Claire's father is waiting with the rest of her kids, her 9-year-old daughter, and a pair of 2-year-old twins. As they walk, the street curves gently past a row of low-rise apartments. There weren't many people around. The morning felt still. And that's when Claire noticed him. A man, maybe in his early 30s, walking up from behind. His pace was casual. His face was unreadable. Claire notices him, but only briefly. Just another passerby. When he moves a little closer to her daughter, she doesn't react. For a moment, it even seems like he's trying to help push the bicycle up the slope. Maybe he's just being kind. But kindness was not what he had in mind. What you're about to hear is a translated excerpt from the breaking news broadcast that aired in Taipei City that night. A statement from Claire Wang herself. By the time I came to my senses, or when I got close to the scene again, passers-by had already pinned the suspect to the ground and called the police. But at that moment, my daughter was no longer in her original spot, nor on her bicycle. Instead, she was scattered by the roadside. Just moments ago, it was a peaceful morning on a quiet Taipei street. Claire was only a step behind, watching her daughter's helmet bob slightly with each determined stride. The man approaching from behind barely registered in her mind, just another pedestrian crossing their path. But then, without so much as a word, he reaches into the black shoulder bag hanging at his side. Claire's gaze flicks toward him, more curious than concerned. She saw his hand grip something heavy inside the bag, something that made a dull metallic scrape as it shifted. The man's hand pulls out a cleaver, thick and sharp, the type meant for chopping meat. He doesn't speak. He doesn't hesitate. He just lifts it and swings. The blade had struck the back of the girl's neck with a sickening force. Claire's body moves before her mind could catch up. She instinctively lunges forward, reaching for her daughter, trying to pull her away, to grab the man's arm, anything to stop him. But the man was already swinging again. The second strike was more frenzied. People nearby began to turn, startled by the noise, but not yet understanding what they were seeing. Claire's screams filled the street, echoing off the low apartment walls. Someone shouted for help. Another ran towards the scene. A few froze in place, eyes wide with disbelief. But the damage had already been done. By the time help reached them, the child who had only moments ago been full of breath and motion was now lying motionless on the pavement. Her body collapses where her bike had fallen, her bright yellow helmet tilted off to one side. Blood begins to pool around her, thick and spreading fast. The man lets go of the cleaver, dropping it beside her with a sharp clang. There is a brief, horrifying stillness before the chaos takes over. Passers-by begin to scream. A woman nearby breaks down, sobbing uncontrollably. A group of men rush in, throwing the attacker to the ground, pinning his arms behind his back. He doesn't resist. He doesn't speak. Claire stumbles forward, dropping to her knees beside her daughter. She reaches out with shaking hands, her voice cracking as she screams her child's name. She tries to lift the tiny body into her arms, but her hands slide across her daughter's back, now slick with blood. It coats her fingers, seeps into her sleeves, spreads across the front of her clothes as she pulls the child against her chest. Then she sees it. Her daughter's head is no longer upright. Her neck has been torn open, almost severed. The child's head is currently only holding on to the rest of her body by just a few strips of flesh. There is no breath, no flicker of movement, and no chance of recovery. At that instant, Claire knows there's no bringing her back. Still, she rocks back and forth on the pavement, cradling what's left of her child, whispering broken pleas into blood-matted hair. Someone tries to pull her away to keep her from seeing more. But she won't let go. She can't. Around her, people scream. Sirens wail in the distance, but Claire hears nothing. All she feels is the unbearable stillness in her arms and the limp weight of her daughter's head resting crookedly against her shoulder. The sirens grow louder with each passing second, but their arrival feels far too late. Around them, a small crowd begins to gather, drawn by the noise, the screaming, and the sight of Claire clutching her bloodied child. Some of them are shouting, while others look on in stunned silence. No one can quite believe what they're seeing. The first officers arrive within minutes. They find the attacker already pinned to the ground by passers-by. His hands restrained, his face expressionless. The cleaver, with its blade coated in blood, lies just a few feet away from the child's body. Officers begin to secure the scene, but Claire is still on the ground, still holding her daughter. They try to speak to her, but she doesn't seem to hear them. She's staring straight ahead, her expression fixed in shock. The man on the ground offers no struggle. When officers lift him to his feet, he doesn't resist. He keeps his head down, his hands limp as they snap the cuffs around his wrists. His name is Wang Qingyu. He's 33 years old and unemployed. According to police records, Wang has a prior criminal history, including multiple arrests related to drug possession and consumption. Authorities also confirmed that his background includes several documented behavioral issues. Twice before, Wang had undergone psychiatric evaluation following violent altercations with his own family. In both cases, he was taken into custody after displaying aggressive and erratic behavior, either lashing out or threatening his relatives. However, with each arrest, he was eventually released. The police deemed him unstable, but not unmanageable. He was considered a risk, but not one that justified confinement. And yet now, on a quiet street in Taipei, with a bloodied cleaver lying on the pavement and a child dead in her mother's arms, he's in custody once again. Police place Wang into the back of a patrol car. Officers begin taping off the area, moving bystanders back as more patrol units and ambulances arrive. Claire still hasn't left her daughter's side. Word spreads quickly, and within hours, news crews are on the scene. Television stations begin broadcasting live from the taped-off sidewalk as journalists gather behind barricades and police work to maintain control. Mourners begin arriving soon after, some leaving flowers, others placing small toys near the spot where the child was killed. Everyone is trying to understand what just happened, how a 4-year-old girl could be slaughtered in front of her mother, in the middle of the day, on a street they've walked 100 times before. The headlines hit like a wave that night. Fast, brutal, and everywhere. Child beheaded in broad daylight. 4-year-old murdered in Taipei street attack. Taiwan is in mourning. In the days that follow, public vigils spring up all across Taipei. People gather with candles and handmade signs. They cry, they pray, and they demand answers. Outside the Wang family's apartment, strangers leave cards and drawings, toy bicycles, teddy bears, and across social media, hashtags begin to trend. The nation, it seems, has stopped for one little girl. Eventually, the outcry reaches the highest levels of government. Former President Ma Ying-jeou addresses the nation, expressing deep sorrow over the tragedy. "The child is so adorable, and the killer so cruel," he says. "Justice must be served." He orders a full investigation. President-elect Tsai Ing-wen follows with a public statement of her own, promising not only support for the grieving family, but a renewed effort to strengthen public safety. She calls it a duty to ensure that this never happens again. At the center of this tragedy is a child. Not just a symbol, not just a headline. A daughter, a sister, a little girl who never made it to the train station that day. Her name was Liu Yijie. She was the second of 4 children, sandwiched between an older sister and 2-year-old twins. Her father worked in tech. Her mother, Claire, stayed home to care for the children. Their lives were modest, filled with routines and warmth, the kind of life that rarely makes the news. The 4-year-old earned the nickname Little Light Bulb because of how she lit up every room she entered. She was cheerful, curious, always in motion. She loved admiring things, little things most people would miss. Birds in the trees, a puddle that caught the sunlight, a passing train. She would stop, take it all in, and simply marvel at how beautiful the world was. Her mother Claire says that on the morning of the incident, she did just that. She was excited, wide-eyed, full of energy. She was proud to be up in time to wave goodbye to her big sister before school. After that, she climbed onto the bed with a piece of fruit in her hand, her little legs swinging as she stared out the window. Claire asked her what she was looking at, and in that small, innocent way only a child can, she gave an answer that stayed with her mother forever. She was simply enjoying the view, enjoying her fruit, taking in the world. To her, it was beautiful. And those were the last words she ever spoke. As the flowers piled up outside the family home, a deeper reckoning was already beginning to take shape. Because beyond the grief, there were questions, difficult ones that the justice system could no longer avoid. Was the man who did this mentally ill or fully aware of his actions? Could this tragedy have been prevented? And what does justice even look like when a child is taken in such a brutal, senseless way? Those answers would come, but not without controversy. In the weeks that followed the attack, more details began to surface, both about the man who had carried out the killing and the long, complicated record he left behind. Wang Qingyu was 33 years old, unemployed, and living alone. His criminal record showed multiple arrests, most for drug possession and consumption. But there was something more troubling: signs of deteriorating mental health. Court documents reveal that he had prior arrests for drug-related offenses and had been detained in the past for violent outbursts toward family members. Though the full extent of those incidents was never officially released, the records confirm he had undergone psychiatric evaluations more than once. Yet despite his behavioral issues and a documented history of instability, no long-term treatment was ever enforced. No medication, no supervision, no institutionalization When his trial began, his defense team quickly argued that he suffered from a severe mental disorder, that his actions were not premeditated, but the result of a break from reality. They assert that he could not be held fully responsible simply because he lacked the capacity to know right from wrong. But the prosecutors painted a very different picture. They revealed that Wang had undergone a psychiatric test just weeks before the attack and passed. He was evaluated as stable, coherent, and aware of his surroundings. They also presented statements from the arresting officers and medical experts. Wang had not appeared confused or disoriented. He answered questions, followed instructions, and gave no indication of being in a delusional state. But perhaps the most disturbing revelation came from what prosecutors uncovered about Wang's movements that day. Before the attack, he had reportedly attempted to enter an elementary school, raising the terrifying possibility that he had been searching for a child. When he couldn't get in, he didn't turn back. He simply kept walking. Minutes later, he saw a 4-year-old girl on a yellow Strider bike, riding just ahead of her mother. That's when he stopped and chose his victim. On one side, you had the defense, arguing mental illness, diminished responsibility, and a man supposedly detached from reality. On the other, the prosecution asserts his clarity, his full awareness of his actions, and possibly a high level of premeditation. Two opposing narratives. But soon, it wouldn't matter what either side claimed, because Wang Qingyu was about to speak for himself, and the courtroom was about to get a glimpse into the mind behind the cleaver. It was revealed that in his initial police interrogations, Wang had responded to police with bizarre and incoherent statements. Reportedly, he brought up ancient Chinese legends and fictional heroes from wuxia novels. These are fictional stories about martial artists who roam ancient China, fighting evil and upholding justice. At one point, he claimed that he had heard voices telling him to, quote, slay the demon. Another time, he insisted he was, quote, cleansing the world. But when pressed for specifics, his explanations fell apart. He contradicted himself, but more importantly, he never once denied what he had done. Wang's obsession with wuxia fiction became a focal point in understanding the strange, detached responses he gave during interrogation. These novels are deeply rooted in Chinese literary tradition, and they revolve around wandering martial heroes who operate outside conventional law. In their world, morality is flexible, vengeance is a virtue, and the hero is often burdened with a divine mission to restore balance through violence. In statements to police, Wang reportedly described the child as a demon and his actions as a necessary cleansing. Investigators revealed that on the day of the attack, Wang believed he was the reincarnation of an ancient Chinese emperor. In his mind, taking the life of a young girl on that exact date was a step toward fulfilling a supernatural prophecy. He believed it would set fate in motion, that a woman would soon bear his child and his royal bloodline would live on. But there was no prophecy, no divine destiny. Just a 4-year-old girl lying lifeless on the pavement, her mother screaming beside her, and a nation struggling to comprehend how such madness was allowed to walk free. Wang's trial began in June, just 3 months after the murder. It was held at the Neihu District Court. And from the start, it was clear that this case was going to be unlike any other. Over the following weeks, the proceedings moved slowly, marked by procedural hearings, witness testimonies, and psychological evaluations. Then came the details. Grim, graphic, and almost too horrific to imagine. Wang didn't just strike once. He struck the little girl's neck 23 times. Claire, who tried to pull him off, was quickly overpowered. The violence was overwhelming. It wasn't a moment of madness. It was sustained, merciless, and intentional. Day by day, the courtroom filled with the quiet tension of a nation watching. And through it all, Claire returned to the same seat in the front row, directly facing the man who had taken her child. Her expression was usually calm, almost unnervingly so. Most of the time, she didn't say a single word, but the weight of her presence said everything. The summer stretched on until one day in September, everything shifted. Wang Qingyu, dressed in prison attire and shackled at the ankles, knelt on the floor of the courtroom. And he cried. He cried and looked toward Claire, while mumbling words that begged for her forgiveness. He said that he hadn't meant for any of it to happen. But Claire didn't move. She didn't turn her head. She didn't blink. She stared straight ahead, unmoved and silent, like the weight of her grief had crystallized into something unshakable. No apology could reach her, not after what she had lost. Wang remained on his knees for nearly 15 minutes, weeping into the silence, until the judge finally told him to stand. And just like that, the trial pressed on. In the days that followed, Claire Wang stood before the cameras once more. Her face, pale but composed, carried the weight of a mother's grief. She didn't lash out, nor did she demand for vengeance. Instead, she chose a path few expected. Rather than focus on punishment, she called for understanding. She told reporters that it was too soon to speak of forgiveness, but that what mattered now was preventing such tragedies from happening again. Claire urged Taiwan to look inward, to examine how the nation handles mental health, how family systems are supported, and what can be done long before someone reaches the point of no return. Her voice was steady, but her message was urgent. If society only reacts after the fact, she said, then another child could be next. She did not want her daughter to become a symbol of rage. She wanted her to become a reason for change. But outside the quiet dignity of Claire's press conference, the political storm was growing. Taiwan's lawmakers were beginning to draft urgent proposals. One bill called for the mandatory death penalty, or life imprisonment, for anyone convicted of murdering a child under the age of 12. Many supporters argued that it was a necessary deterrent. The brutality of the killing had shaken the nation's conscience, and for many, the only acceptable response was maximum punishment. Children's advocacy groups also joined in by holding rallies and pushing lawmakers to act fast. On TV and all over social media, people were once again debating the return of capital punishment. But through it all, the fight for justice continued in the courtroom. The prosecution made a strong case for the death penalty. They presented expert testimony from doctors who had reviewed his behavior and confirmed that, while he had been diagnosed with schizophrenia, he was cognitively sound at the time of the attack. He could control his actions. He knew what he was doing. But the defense insisted his mental illness had clouded his judgment, that he was a danger, but not evil. They urged leniency, treatment, not execution. During the trial, the victim's father stood before the court. His voice shook as he described how the image of his daughter's killing continues to haunt him. He made it clear he did not and could not accept Wang's apology. He pleaded with the court to impose the death penalty, not out of revenge, but to send a message that such brutality cannot be allowed to happen again. And then, the final verdict came. Wang Qingyu would spend the rest of his life in prison. There would be no death sentence. Claire Wang issued a public statement that day, and she made no effort to hide her disappointment. This is an excerpt from her message. To be very honest, each step we have taken has been very difficult. Please forgive us for our sorrow and agony. But now that the justice system has made its decision, we must turn our pain into reform. We will keep the sorrow to ourselves and place our hope in making reforms. Let our pain become a force for change. Wang Qingyu remained largely silent throughout the announcement of the verdict. Photos from the trial show him in handcuffs, his head bowed. He wears a plain white prison-issued shirt. His face is gone, eyes sunken behind square-rimmed glasses. There is no expression, no defiance, no remorse. Just a quiet, unreadable emptiness. For Claire Wang, her fight for justice didn't end with the verdict. In the years that followed, she transformed her grief into action. She joined the New Power Party, stepped into public service, and in 2020 was elected to Taiwan's legislative yuan. As a lawmaker, she became a powerful advocate for judicial reform and social safety nets, especially for victims and the mentally ill. By 2023, she would rise to become chairperson of the party. Her daughter, lovingly remembered by the nation as Little Lightbulb, did not die in vain. Claire made sure of that. What began as the darkest chapter of her life became a mission to build a system that could prevent the next tragedy. One where no other child would be left unprotected, and no other parent forced to endure what she did.